Darkfire Audio presents Call of the Herald, Book 1 in the Dawning of Power trilogy, written by Brian Rathbone, narrated by Chris Snellgrove. Chapter 10. Security is the blindfold worn by those who cannot accept the uncertainty of the future. Mundon Barr, Speculator. One of the soldiers lay supine near the fire, still unconscious, and Benjen seemed to think there was little chance he would ever wake. They hoped he would regain consciousness soon, so they could squeeze some information out of him. For the moment, though, he would give no more information than his deceased companion. Catrin did not want to know what they had done with the body of the other man, so she didn't ask. The thought of Chase killing someone, even to defend himself or a friend, seemed so out of character with his gentle nature that she blocked any image of that from her mind. Not far from the lake lay a new raft made of many saplings that had been hastily bound together with rope and vines. When Strom saw her looking at it, he walked to her side. "I was coming to look for you," he said. Catrin felt tears filling her eyes, and in a rare moment, Strom put his hand on her shoulder. "Come on, let's get something to eat." Seeing their provisions still intact brought a wave of relief. She had feared it all lost to the attackers. It was odd that she had gone a relatively short time without food, yet she felt as if she had not eaten in weeks. It was as if the time she'd spent thinking about starvation had had a physical effect on her. Though she was able to eat only half of what she took, she kept the rest nearby for when her appetite returned. Its very presence brought her comfort. Benjen filled her in about his journey.
"Let me first say that I believe your father is well and is adequately defended in the cold caves. Miss Maris is also faring well, given the circumstances. I was unable to get information regarding Osborne's family, and the only information I got about Chase's father was that he was last seen with Wendell. I'm guessing he's in the cold caves as well. Miss Maris and Wendell led many people to the cold caves, and once inside, they blocked the entrances with rocks and hastily laid mortar. As far as she knew, they are continuing to build up the blockade, even as the Jean remove it. But that process is slowly forcing them farther back into the caves. Others fled to the protection of the Master House, far too many to be comfortably housed there. Riots broke out when the Masters began strictly rationing food and water, since their supplies were not plentiful enough to support such numbers," he said, and stopped to consider his next words. "There is a bit of good news and more bad news. First, the bad news. Peyton Ross was captured and forced to talk. Peyton told them he thought Catrin was the Herald, and about the day Osborne was attacked. He also described each of us, as well as a few others, in great detail. He told them that Strom, Chase, and I had mysteriously disappeared, and he thought we had run to hide in the mountains with Catrin." He continued, "The good news is also bad news. I guess I failed to mention that. The Jean know who you are, what you look like, and that you are most likely not in the Master House or the cold caves. Because of this, they have changed their strategy. Now they only wish to contain the people who are trapped and use their numbers to scour the rest of the Godfist looking for you. This'll take much of the pressure off those who are under siege, and there should be less loss of life. The bad part, of course, is that they'll be combing the mountains looking for us."
Catrin shivered and pulled her knees to her chest as the weight of his words settled into her consciousness. The Jean wanted only her. Maybe, if she gave herself up to them, they would leave the people of the Godfist alone.
"There is another part of this story I've not told you yet," Benjen said. "I must stress how very important this is. You are being entrusted with sacred information that you must never reveal. Can you all promise me that you will never reveal any of what I tell you to another living soul?"
They all nodded solemnly.
"Miss Maris told me things she was strictly forbidden to tell anyone not of the Vestrana."
He paused and looked at each of them solemnly. Catrin tried to remember where she had heard the word Vestrana before, but all she could recall was some talk about a secret society that was shrouded in mystery.
"In order for me to tell you these secrets, you have to swear the Vestrana oath. But first I must explain some things so you'll know what you're swearing to. You don't have to swear the oath, but if you don't, I'll not be able to tell you some things, and neither will anyone who has sworn."
The young people looked at each other, wondering if any would refuse to swear.
"At the end of the last Ishtran phase, the Vareks were nearly destroyed, and they went into hiding to survive. They knew their knowledge and beliefs were important and needed to be passed on, so they formed a secret society known as the Vestrana, and my family has been a part since its inception. My grandfather swore me in when I was still a boy," he confided. "The Vestrana opposed the Jan in their practice of conquering lands and then forcing the conquered peoples to convert to their religion. The penalty for refusal was death. Our secret exile has gone on for thousands of years, and we have replenished our numbers. We'll not dictate religious beliefs to others, as we wish every person to choose his or her beliefs freely and not be persecuted for them. We strictly oppose any religion that mandates killing people simply because their beliefs are different. Do you all understand?" he asked.
"I'm no good at lying," Strom admitted for the second time. "Every time I try to lie to Miss Maris, she calls me on it, on the spot. I'm just not good at keeping secrets, so I don't know if I should take the oath."
"The choice is yours. I'll not force you to take an oath you feel you cannot keep. I will tell you, however, that you won't have to lie. You just cannot say certain things. You can be completely honest with someone without revealing any of the things you must keep safe,"
Benjen said.
"I can be quiet, and if I don't have to lie, well, then I think I can do it,"
he said, looking a bit more confident. Benjen gave him a moment to reconsider before he continued.
"Before I can tell you any more, I'll tell you the oath, and if you feel it is right, you should swear it. Here it is. I swear to uphold the values of the Vestrana. I will not divulge any information considered within confidence of the Vestrana. I will seek to free the oppressed and vanquish the oppressor. I will give my life before I will betray myself or the Vestrana," he intoned.
It was simple enough, but Benjen made them explain it back to him in their own words to be sure they understood its meaning.
"I must ask you to understand that people generally prepare for several seasons before they are allowed to take the oath. There are many things you do not know, so you must not say anything at all about any of this to anyone for any reason, ever. Is that clearly understood?"
They all nodded soberly. Once he was satisfied they understood the gravity of the situation, he asked if any of them wished to swear the oath. All of them wanted to, and each recited it individually. Benjen made them repeat it until they could speak it from memory, and he formally welcomed each of them to the Vestrana and kissed them on their foreheads.
"I've never sworn anyone in before," he admitted, and seemed much more relaxed when he spoke again. "Many innkeepers across the world are members of the Vestrana and serve as part of a huge information network. Miss Maris is one of those innkeepers, and she has access to information few else on the Godfist are privy to. The Vestrana have many allies, some of whom may make a living in shady dealings, but they honor the Vestrana. Miss Maris suggested we seek out one particular ally. In doing so, she had to reveal one of her most trusted secrets to me. There is a harbor on the east side of the Godfist. It's along a rough section of coast that offers very little safe anchorage because of the many surrounding islands and reefs that'll sink an unwary ship. The only ships known to safely dock there are pirate ships, and even those are somewhat rare events. The Godfist is pretty far outside established trade routes, and pirate ships only dock here to avoid pursuit, though sometimes they trade goods and information with the Vestrana. They are now 2 ships docked at the cove, as far as we know. They sought refuge from the Jean fleet, fearing the ships had been sent after them. The last Miss Maris had heard, they were still there. She's going to try to get word to them and arrange passage for us. Though they are not here with us, agents of the Vestrana are doing all they can to help. I know the Jean are going to scour the Godfist in search of Catrin, so I propose we travel to the cove and leave the Godfist with the pirates. Even if Miss Maris is not able to contact them, we may be able to work something out, and to be completely honest, I don't have any better ideas."
His words were met with utter silence, and Catrin struggled to make sense of all of it. She could not imagine leaving the Godfist, her home, and had never thought about going any other place. The others seemed to be having similar problems assimilating the information. Chase was the first to find his voice.
"Where would we go?"
he asked.
"We should go to the last place they would expect us to go, to the Greatland, into the heart of their empire."
"Do you really think that's the best thing to do?" Catrin asked, incredulous.
"The Greatland is the largest and most heavily populated landmass on Godsland. We can disguise ourselves and hide much more easily among so many people, not to mention the huge area they would have to search to look for us. It may also be that getting you to the Greatland is the best way to help fulfill the prophecy."
"You really believe I'm the Herald?" Catrin asked, fearing his answer.
"I'm not sure what I believe," he said, "but I know you have important tasks ahead of you, and no matter what you or I believe, you have already done some important work. There's no going back, I'm afraid. From now on, you'll be the one who is declared the Herald, whether you are or not. Truth can be a difficult thing to find."
Catrin had never heard Benjen speak so profoundly, and she wondered what else she didn't know about the man she had worked beside for so many years.
"I'm sorry I don't have all the answers. I wish I did," he said, shaking his head. "In many ways, I'm just as confused as you are. To follow our hearts and hope we make the right decisions is the best we can do. Do we agree we should make for the cove?"
He knew their answer and told them what to pack and what to leave behind. During this activity, he pulled Catrin aside but seemed to have trouble choosing his words.
"I've sworn the Vestrana oath," he began. "A message given into my trust must be delivered, unopened, to the intended recipient, unless it cannot be done. There is a strict protocol on this, and I must honor it, even when I don't want to. I considered breaking my oath when Miss Maris gave me this message. I thought about reading it before I gave it to you. I even considered destroying it without reading it. I'm ashamed to admit I was tempted, but I will keep my oath. This unopened message is for you. You don't have to tell me what it says. I'm just the messenger," he said as he handed her a tightly rolled parchment closed with wax. The seal impressed in the wax belonged to Nat Derzinger. After moving off to a quiet place by the fire, Catrin stared at the parchment. She did not want to open it, afraid of what it might say. Nat was a pariah, his outlandish ranting about the coming of Istra and the dawning of a new age too disturbing for most people to give any credence to. Some said he was mad, others claimed he was afflicted with some disease, but most agreed his public sermons were the ravings of a deranged mind. Catrin had to wonder, now that many of his prophecies were actually coming true, whether Nat was mad, or everyone else was. An uneasy feeling gnawed at the pit of her stomach as her beliefs began to crumble beneath her. Fear crept in where her fallen truths no longer held sway, and yet she felt liberated to pursue limitless possibilities that would open to her. She tore the wax seal away and unrolled the parchment. "My dearest Catrin, my fondest wish is that you will walk in peace and light and that your mind will always remain free. Some say I'm deranged, but I leave that for you to judge. What I am sure of is that you must embrace your role as the Herald. I implore you to use the divine gift you have been given, and that you do not squander it.
I have studied all scriptures and holy books available to me, and I want to help you learn to use the power of Istra's light. You have experienced its improper use, even though you did not intend to exploit it, so you are aware of its power. If you choose to pursue the divine gifts you have been given, I beg you to seek knowledge. I hope to bring knowledge of these to you, but if I cannot make my way to you in time, seek out the Catrin monks. They may be able to help you. Before your journey takes you beyond the Godfist, you will be besieged. Remember these words when you fear you have made the wrong choices. Vestra's light warms Godsland. Water ascends upon the wings of his warmth, and the skies disperse it at will. Rain shapes the land and gives life to the fishes, and the fishes sparkle in Istra's light. May Istra and Vestra guide and bless you. Nat. Catrin sat back, confounded by what she had read. Nat was right about the disastrous results of her tapping the strange energies, but his words of warning were unclear to her. That he would make this effort to get a message to her only to leave her with a riddle seemed ludicrous. Frustrated, she tucked the parchment into her pocket, hoping to make sense of it at some later time. When she rejoined the others, Benjen's eyes met hers. When she had no comment, he simply nodded and finished checking his pack. He then stood and pulled several pieces of rolled parchment from his pack. Addressing all of them, he said, "You've been sworn, and this information is in the Vestrana confidence. You must not divulge it to anyone, and you must destroy this if you believe it could fall into anyone else's hands," he said, handing a copy to each of them. "The journey we're about to undertake will be perilous. I wish I could offer you the chance to walk away, but our situation is too dire. You are in peril if you stay or if you go. I think we should stick together, but I want each of you to have a map in case we get separated. This is a highly unusual practice. It's dangerous in the extreme to have so many copies of anything in the Vestrana confidence, but this is a highly unusual case, and I've made an exception. Be certain no one else gets these maps." He reiterated firmly, "We leave before dawn, and I want a double watch tonight." The snap of a branch in the distance behind Nat increased his level of panic. For weeks he'd been hiding in the hills. Miss Maris had urged him to find Catrin, but he had no idea how to do that. Only his visions and dreams provided any guidance, but those proved difficult to interpret and decipher. The only things he knew for certain were that Catrin must survive, and that she was in terrible danger. In the end, he was left to wander in the wilderness, battling his own despair as he searched for someone who did not want to be found. He could have passed her and her companions a dozen times, and he would never know. He was a fisherman, not a tracker. Finding Catrin was now the least of his problems, though. The Jean were searching for her as well, and they were close behind him. If they found him... He tried not to think about the horrors he might face. Even with his staff, he was no match for a trained swordsman. Instead, he concentrated on moving into the thickest and most forbidding undergrowth he could find. When he could no longer make forward progress, he curled into a ball beneath a veil of thorn and briar, hoping those who pursued him would simply pass by. Eventually the light began to fade, and the beat of Nat's heart slowed. Weariness more complete than any he'd ever known began to wash over him, coaxing him to sleep, luring him into the land of dreams. Somewhere between sleep and wakefulness, the scene before him changed. No longer did he see a canopy of twisted vines and curved thorns bathed in moonlight. Instead, he watched as Catrin was surrounded by the shadows of death. Moving like the wind, the darkness closed in on her, blocking out the light and her life. Just as he thought her flame would be extinguished, Catrin fought back. To Nat's horror, she did not attack the darkness directly. Instead, she tore the land asunder and hurled it at her foes. Her every step rent the land, leaving cavernous gouges and craters wherever she trod, And still the darkness came, unthwarted and undaunted. Clawing his way through the darkness, Nat clenched his jaws as the thorns bit deep. He could not stop, though. No matter how great the pain, he had to find her.